Very good evening to all. We have come to another edition of Navalasravanthi program, part of Book Readers Club. Today we brought a young lady from the land of Rabindranath Tagore and Bankim Chandra, and of course from Mamata Banerjee also. So today's guest is Nivedita Chakraborty. She hails from Calcutta, and Hyderabad had the privilege that she had lived for some years in Hyderabad. Now she moved with along her husband to US, living there. Today she is going to introduce a psychological thriller or romantic thriller, whatever you call it. About the book later she will explain the plot, about the author, the characters, and why she liked it, and what could be in store in the end, the suspense, everything she's going to reveal. Very interesting and suspense-filled book. Nivedita is a classical and semi-classical dancer. She is a practices Kathak dance, and also she choreographs many events. She did many in Calcutta or in Hyderabad, and also now she's doing a lot of events in terms of choreography in US also. She is a disciple of world-renowned Kathak guru Vidushi Madhumita Rai. Recently, she single-handedly choreographed for many big cultural events in California and Boston. Not only dance and choreography, so she excels in many other talents. She is a good reader also. She wears many hats and she has a versatile personality. So let us hear from Nivedita why she liked the book, what she liked the book, and how she unfolds the story in front of us. So over to Nivedita.
Thank you, BP. It's good morning here, so very good morning to all of you. And it's around 11:38 a.m. here in Boston. I hope you can all hear me because
you are audible, Nivedita. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So we all have been going through this pandemic, and with COVID, I have become in this past year a very like a book addict. So I read all kind of books, mostly from nowadays from new authors. I used to like James Hadley Chase when I was more younger, but nowadays I'm more inclined towards these psychological thriller or romantic thriller, or any kind of suspense or thriller books. So the book today we are going to talk about is The Good Girl. It's a few years old. It's not a new book. The author is Mary Kubika. I don't know if I pronounced her name correctly, but she has a few other books too. But today we will talk about this one in particular. This book was supposed to be turned into a movie back in 2014, but now it's in 2018 it's been said that it might get converted into a series instead of a movie. Some Israeli producer, I think they bought the credits for this, and they are going to turn it into a series. This one is not a romantic thriller. It is a psychological thriller. And though I mean, the The storyline is pretty good, unique, but it's a lot similar to the movie, to the book Gone Girl by Gillian. There's a movie also. It's a very famous movie. It was Gone Girl. This book is compared to the book Gone Girl a lot. But the story is not so similar, but it is somewhat psychologically, if you think. Uh, so the the main point about this book is actually it consists many timelines. So that confuses me a little because it doesn't say which timeline is going when. So there are three people narrating the story in this book, three main characters, and the female lead of the story, she doesn't have a narration in this novel, but she comes in the epilogue, and she finishes the story. So let's start. I will read a few passages from the book, and we'll see if you like it or not. So the story starts with the mother of the female lead. She starts narrating the story. It's about a girl, her younger daughter, who who disappears suddenly, all of a sudden, and throughout the book, there is ups and downs of what happens in her disappearance and who abducts her, and whether it's who is involved and how they rescue her, and whether the rescue was needed or not. That is also a part of the story. I mean, the girl wanted to be rescued or not. So let's start with the first page. This is the mother, and so here there are different timelines, like I said. So here it says this is before, so it means it is before the abduction of the girl. The story starts from past, and then some of the storyline is in present, and then again it goes back to past and then present, like that. So the mother, she says, "I'm sitting at the breakfast nook, sipping from a mug of cocoa when the phone rings. I'm lost in thought, staring out the back window at the lawn that now, in the throes of an early fall, abounds with leaves. They are dead mostly, some still clinging lifelessly to the trees. It's late afternoon. The sky is overcast, the temperatures doing a nosedive into the 40s and 50s. I'm not ready for this, I think, wondering where in the world the time has gone. Seems like just yesterday we were welcoming spring, and then moments later, summer. The phone startles me, and I'm certain it's a telemarketer. So I don't initially bother to rise from my perch. I relish the last few hours of silence I have before James comes thundering through the front door and intrudes upon the world. And the last thing I want to do is waste precious minutes on some telemarketer's sales pitch that I'm certain to refuse." So James is Eve's husband, and he's a judge. So then it goes. The irritating noise of the phone stops and then starts again. I answer it for no other reason than to make it stop. "Hello," I ask in a vexed tone, standing now in the center of the kitchen, one hip pressed against the island. "So, Mrs. Dennett," the woman asks. I consider for a moment telling her that she's got the wrong number or ending her pitch right there with a simple "not interested." "This is she, Mrs. Dennett. This is Ayanna Jackson. I have heard the name before. I have never met her, but she's been a constant in Mia's life for over a year now." How many times have I heard Mia say her name? "Ayanna and I did this. Ayanna and I did that." She's explaining how she knows Mia, how the two of them teach together at the alternative high school in the city. I hope I'm not interrupting anything, she says. I catch my breath. Oh no, and I just walked in the door, I lie. Then she goes on about, her daughter Mia and her mom. She says that, she hasn't seen her for some time and it's odd. Then after the call, then Ayanna says, and it's then that it hits me, something is wrong. It hits me in the stomach. And the first thought I have is myself, 7 or 8 months pregnant with Mia and her stalwart limbs kicking and punching so hard that tiny feet and hands emerge in shapes through my skin. I pull out a bar stool and sit at the kitchen island and think to myself that before I know it, Mia will be 25 and I haven't so much as thought of a gift. I haven't proposed a party or suggested that all of us, James and Grace and Mia and me, make reservations for an elegant dinner in the city. What do you suggest we do then? I ask. There's a sigh on the other end of the line. I was hoping you would tell me Mia was with you, she says. So in the first chapter, we find out that Mia's friend, Ayanna, Mia doesn't come to the school where she teaches, and she's absent for a few days, and she calls her mother and informs about it, and thinking that Mia is with her family. But then her friend discovers that Mia is not with her family, and her mom discovers something in her, tells her that Mia is not all right. And it's then she thinks that something has happened to Mia. And now comes the second person of the narration of this book is Gabe. He is the investigator, the detective who investigates this abduction or, runaway of Mia. And this is his narration. I will be reading from the third para of his interaction with the judge, Eve's husband, and Eve. When is the last time you spoke to her? I ask. Last week, the judge says. Not last week, James, Eve says. She pauses, aware of the annoyed look on her husband's face because of the interruption, before continuing. The week before, maybe even the one before that? That's the way our relationship is with Mia. We go for weeks, sometimes without speaking. So this isn't unusual then, I ask, to not hear from her for a while? No, Mrs. Dennett concedes. And what about you, Grace? We spoke last week, just a quick call. Wednesday, I believe, maybe Thursday. Yes, it was Thursday because she called as I was walking into the courthouse for a hearing on a motion to suppress. She throws that in just so I know she's an attorney, as if the pinstripe blazer and the leather briefcase beside her feet didn't already give that away. Anything out of the ordinary? The detective asks. Just Mia being Mia. And what that means? Gabe, the judge, interrupts. Detective Hoffman, I assert authoritatively. If I have to call him judge, he can certainly call me detective. Mia is very independent. She moves to the beat of her own drum, so to speak. So hypothetically, your daughter has been gone since Thursday? A friend spoke to her yesterday, saw her at work. What time? I don't know, 3 p.m.? I glance at my watch. So she has been missing for 27 hours? Is it true that she's not considered missing until she's gone for 48 hours? Mrs. Dennett asks. Of course not, Eve, her husband replies in a degrading tone. No, ma'am, I say. I try to be extra cordial. I don't like the way her husband demeans her. In fact, The first 48 hours are often the most critical in missing person cases. The judge jumps in. My daughter is not a missing person. She is misplaced. She is doing something rash and negligent, something irresponsible, but she is not missing. Your Honor, who was the last one to see your daughter then, before she was? I'm smart. I'm a smart ass. So I have to say it, misplaced. It's Mrs. Dennett who responds, a woman named Ayanna Jackson. She and Mia are co-workers. Do you have a contact number? On a sheet of paper in the kitchen, I nod towards the officers who head into the kitchen to get it. Is this something Mia has done before? No, absolutely not. But the body language of Judge and Grace Dennett says otherwise. That's not true, Mom, Grace chides. Grace is Mia's elder sister. So in the family, they're like Mom Eve, then the husband and dad James who's a judge, and then her elder sister Grace Dennett, and then the girl Mia, who is missing. So her older sister says, Grace says, that's not true, Mom. I watch her extensively. Lawyers just love to hear themselves speak. On 5 or 6 different occasions, Mia disappeared from the house, spent the night doing God knows what with God knows whom. Yes, I think to myself, Grace Dennett is not a good girl. So we don't want to use the word this there, but let's just say that she's not a good girl. That's what the detective says. Grace has dark hair like her dad's. She's got her mother's height and her father's shape. Not a good mix. Some people might call it an hourglass figure. I probably would too if I liked her, but instead I call it plump. That's completely different. She was in high school. She was a little naive and mischievous. But Eve, don't read more into this than there is, Judge Dennett says. Does Mia drink? I ask. Not much, Mrs. Dennett says. How do you know what Mia does, Eve? You two rarely speak. This is when the detective is figuring out the relationship between the girl who is missing and her family members. They are not very close. Like earlier I said in the page, it says that they haven't spoken to each other since days, and sometimes it goes even weeks that they don't speak to each other. So that's what the detective is also figuring out. So then again, the detective says, how is Mia's work ethic? Excuse me, the judge retorts as wrinkles from across his forehead and he rubs them away with an aggravated hand. Her work ethic. Does she have a good employment history? Has she ever skipped work before? Does she call in often, claim she is sick when she is not? I don't know. She has a job, she gets paid, she supports herself. I don't ask questions. This is how the father answers. Then the detective asks her mother, Mrs. Dennett. Then her mom replies, she loves her job. She just loves it. Teaching is what she always wanted to do. Mia is an art teacher. High school. I jot this down in my notes as a reminder. The judge wants to know if I think that's important. Might be, I respond. And why is that? The judge asks, why is it important that the detective is writing that Mia is an art teacher in high school?
Nivedita, cover in each paragraph. You have to complete the book, no story.
Yes.
So you are at the beginning, already is 9:24. So you can go to flip through quickly. So that
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So Yeah, where was I? Okay, why is it important that the detective is noting that Mia is an art teacher? So he says, Your Honor, I'm just trying to understand your daughter, understand who she is, that's all. So this is, and then they go on, more conversation is about like where she lives and who she associates with. Does she have a boyfriend or not? And then there are more narrations of her mom and the detective. Now let's come to the place where of the abductor. This is the third person of the. This is the third person who narrates the story, and he is supposedly the anti-hero of the story because he abducts the girl. So let's read one from his. Okay. So now the story comes to where the abductor, his name is Colin, and this is also a before timeline. This is not a present timeline, and he's already abducted the girl. So he says, "Give me your phone." I snap. I ticked. I forgot to ditch her phone before we left. The light from the gas station fills the truck. She's a damn mess. Makeup down her face. Her hair is catastrophic. Why? She asks. I know she's not this dumb. Just give it to me. Why? Just give it to me. I don't have it, she lies. I scavenge the back of the truck for something. Rope, an extension cord, a piece of string. I bind her hands together, tight enough that she cries out in pain. Try that again, I say when I get back in the truck, and I'll kill you. I slam the door and start the engine. Now the story goes back and forth with the abduction and how her mother, who finally finds out that Mia is not misplaced, she is not missing, but she is abducted. And they don't know whether they will get her back dead or alive. So Colin was just the middleman of this abduction, the third narrator of the story. He was supposed to pick up the girl and then drop her off to the main abductors. But he doesn't do that. At some point of time, he decides that he is not going to give her to the people who hired him to abduct the girl. Instead, they both drive to a very, very far away in a different state in Wisconsin, and then they go in a cabin, a wooded old cabin, and that's where they start living. And so he doesn't get any money that he was supposed to get from the main abductors, but they both kind of start living together, where the girl didn't want to, but then they still have to. So then the story goes on between, again, her mom and then the detective and her dad, that they think that the abduction might be because of the high rank her dad was in, because he was a judge, and he used to get a lot of threatening mails, and people used to threaten him and his family that if he doesn't stop being who he is, then people might harm him. So there's another part of the story where the abduction is of the Mia girl is looked as if people were trying to get back to her dad, if that was the reason that she was abducted, or if there is another reason. Then suddenly, after a few pages of the first few, say 100 pages of the book, there's a storyline where it's the present storyline, where the girl, the Mia girl, is already being rescued. And now the story goes back how she was rescued and what went on in the cabin, and how she's come back to the picture. Now, she has not come back normally. She has lost all her memories. So the doctor who is treating her now thinks that this is because of the trauma she has endured in the past 3 months, where she stayed in the forest and in the cold. But nobody knows that whether the girl is actually, she has lost her memories, or she is faking it all. So that's how the story goes on and on and on about what is actually going on in Mia's head. If she is really, she's really lost the memory, or she is just pretending to have lost it. There's another paragraph which I would like to read out from the book. This is the third narrator of the story, Colin, who abducts the girl. He says, just my luck. The girl's still sleeping when I hear a scratch on the front door. It about scares the shit out of me. I jump from my bed on the flabby couch and realize I don't have the gun. It's dawn, the sun just beginning to rise. I pull aside the curtains for a look, but I see nothing. What the hell, I think. I open the front door to discover that the damn cat has brought us a dead mouse. He has been MIA for days. He looks like hell, almost as bad as the nearly decapitated rodent beside his bloody feet. I scoop the cat into my hands. I will deal with the mouse later. For now, the damn cat is my ransom. Divine intervention, if I actually believe in that kind of shit. So now let's go to I don't know how much time I have. I have seriously not done this before. So please excuse me if I am, not doing it right. How am I supposed to? But then the story goes on, and now let's read the present story, where the detective finds the same cat, which the Colin just now, which I read about, that he saw a cat outside his cabin, and he found the same. The detective found the same cat, and he brought it to the girl, who was already been rescued in a different chapter, and he tries to get her memory back with the cat. But the girl Mia, she thinks that her name is not Mia anymore. It's a different name. She says that her name is Chloe, and she's not Mia anymore. So that's how it goes on. And about the parents and the doctor and the detective, they want to know why she has lost her memories. And finally, the detective, he decides to take the girl back to the cabin where she was kept for 3 months, because in between the storyline, they already rescued her. So they take her back to the cabin, and I will read some from that. It's this part of the story is narrated by the detective again. So he says, like, Eve leans against the hallway wall covered in pastel wallpaper. The doctor has changed into a pair of lounge pants and slippers. Her hair is tied into stringent bun that makes her forehead look huge. So the detective, then the girl Mia, and then her mother Eve, and their psychiatrist doctor, who was treating her after Mia was discovered, the doctor, they all came back to the place where Mia was kept for 3 months, abducted and kept for 3 months, and they tried to understand from Mia's point of view, like what she must have felt there. Then the psychiatrist, she says, it's called Stockholm Syndrome. It's when victims become emotionally attached to their captors. The bond with them in captivity, and when it's all said and done, they defend their captors and become fearful of the police who came to their rescue. It's not unusual. We see it all the time. There are a number of conditions that aid in development of Stockholm Syndrome. Mia would have needed to feel threatened by her aggressor, as we know she did. This goes without saying, and finally, Mr. Thatcher would have needed to show a minimum amount of humanity to her, such as not letting Mia starve to death, I offer. Precisely, giving her clothes to wear, shelter. I could go on and on. It makes perfect sense to me. So they all now start thinking that Mia is protecting the person who abducted her. So they're trying to find out why she's doing that. So when they are all having this discussion, her mother, she says suddenly, she loved him. In that mother knows best tone. Eve, I think she loves him. I have never seen Eve so sure of anything as she is this, the detective says. She stands in the doorway watching Mia sleep on the bed. She watches her like a new mother might watch her infant child. Eve sleeps in the bed beside Mia. I sleep in the second double bed, though I have my own room. Eve begs me not to leave. Who am I to talk? I think as I slide between the sheets. I don't know a damn thing about being in love. Neither of us sleeps. I didn't kill him, I remind Eve, but it doesn't matter because someone did. So the hero, the anti-hero of the story dies. And, but that's not the end of the, suspense about the book. So as the book ends, and this is the last part of the book, it's the epilogue, and that's where Mia comes in picture and she narrates the story from her point of view. So then you will find out that actually the whole part, this other part of the book which you have read, is whether it was all real or was the story was being manipulated by someone else. So there's a lot of manipulation in the book, but I don't think I would want to tell you about the story. Then you wouldn't want to read it. It's not the best of the thriller books that I've come across in time, but it's pretty okay. It's for young readers, I think. We can call it as a young adult book, but it's definitely there's no gore or there's no smut in it, so it's pretty good for a thriller. But I mean, I don't know if BP wants me to tell you the whole story about it, but this is what, this is just like the gist of the story, that how the girl Mia, who is not very close to her family, gets abducted and falls in love with her abductor. But if that falling in love is true or not, or is actually a manipulation, and who plans this whole, who orchestrates this whole plot of death and abduction and the trauma, and who goes through it, is you will find at the very last chapter. So it's very good. It's gripping. It's not. I speculated a lot from the beginning that who is the who is the actual person who does all these things, but my guess was not right. So but when at the ending of the book, I was really flabbergasted by, oh, so this is what actually happens. So it's a good book. It's not one of the the best thriller books, but it's a good read. It's a good read in the last year during the pandemic.
Thank you,
So
Nivedita.
yeah. I don't know how I did.
You did good. Don't worry. We all enjoyed. But one doubt is that you are no more a young adult. Why did this book appeal to you?
Oh, I
You
like
just
young
said
adult books. I will always be a young adult. You cannot determine your age by numbers. You have to determine your age by how you feel about yourself. So you have to feel like I always want to be the way I am, like I was 10 years back, and maybe 10 years down the line, I will be the same.
so. You will
I,
keep
u- I
reading the
used
same.
to I used to like, yeah, suspense thrillers before also, and I like it now also. So that haven't changed much.
You tell me, Nivedita, why people read psychological thrillers? What exactly, where that exactly the appeal lie? In general, not only for young adults but everybody.
I think it's the thrill of the suspense, like what is going to happen. It's just as the story unfolds. The main
Hmm.
thing is, I think, the thrill of something, this might happen, or the guessing work, like, oh, so let's say that this might happen, but then at the end, whatever you were thinking, that doesn't happen in the book, and then something completely else happens, and that's exciting. So I think people read it to get excited, maybe.
So rather than the narration, the twist in the tale excites you, or rather,
Yeah.
uh, people who read these kind of genre.
No, the story excites me. The narration, the how the writer is, describing each and every. So I don't like reading a story if there is no description of how the environment of that story is happening as it unfolds. So like, if there is, the narration is about the mother, and they say that, oh, the kitchen looks like this, that it had a painted yellow walls, and then I would like to picture the whole space of the story as it's as it unfolds.
How does it differs from the genre of Sidney Sheldon? He also wrote. I'm sure you must have read a lot of Sidney Sheldon books. They are also suspense thrillers. Uh,
The new adult books, there's a I think it's a little less complicated, and it's the storytelling is more simple, rather than it's more simple. So that
compared to Sidney Sheldon.
yeah, it's simple, yeah.
Hmm.
But the I mean, books are stories are stories. If it's a good story, I might read it again after a year. But if it is a one-time read, it can be one read. So this is a one-time read. This because once I know the story of a suspense thriller, because I know what is going to happen at the end, I may not want to read it again. But
Okay.
Sidney Sheldon books are not a one-time read. I mean, you can read it again and again.
Is
I
Mia really good girl?
That you have to find out if you read once you read it, whether she is the good girl or she is a bad girl. That is actually the story. You
I
will.
don't have the patience to read 700 pages to know whether Mia is
It's
good girl or bad.
700 pages.
No.
It's 382 pages, like in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not very big. 382 pages. She writes good. There are a few other books of this author as well. Those are all been changed into movies. I think this one is being changed into a series. Like I said, it might get released next year. The Netflix, they are adapting it as a series.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because this book is in different timelines. So I think
Hmm.
it will be difficult to make a movie because there are several different timelines. Some are in the past, some is in the present. So that's why I think a series would be much better, where one episode you can show present, then one episode you can show past. So yeah.
Great, Nivedita. Thank you very much for sparing time from your busy schedule and reaching out to us, our Book Readers Club, as well as founder and head club members. Uh, thanks a lot from on behalf of them.
So would you be reading it or not? Tell me.
Honestly, this is not my genre.
So you don't like reading suspense thrillers?
Maybe I will recommend to Alaka to read it and.
Yeah, she would like it. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Unless you were asking about it when you
Yeah,
were
it's a
reading.
good psychological thriller. Yeah.
I will buy it for her. Definitely.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, BP. It was great. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, BP, you can conclude. Thanks, Nivedita.
Thank you so
BP, you can
much, Mr.
conclude.
Reddy.
Yeah. వచ్చే ఆదివారం మరొక బుక్ రీడర్ తో వస్తాము సేమ్ నవలాసవంత కార్యక్రమానికి. స్టే ట్యూన్ ఫర్ ద నెక్స్ట్ సండే 9 PM. Thank you all. Good night.
Bye.